Well, we're back talking finance today. Our finance guy, Gavin Martin, back with us from Cornerstone Wealth. And today, let's talk through issues of financial stress, those things that get us down, some more than others. Some people have a better capacity to deal with it than others. But let's get some opinion from Gavin Martin from Cornerstone Wealth. Hello, Gavin. Welcome back to 2020.
G'day, Neil. Great to be with you, and hopefully we don't cause too much financial stress in this segment.
I think the thought of talking about finances for some people is a stressful thing. So let's try to be as stress-free as we can. Yes. When somebody turns up at your office and they're there for an official appointment, and they start pouring out their heart to you and say, the most stressful things in my life include my finances. What do you say to address that issue?
Yeah, most often when people are in that really stressful time, it's relating to debt. And so there was one day or a couple of days where I met like 30 people over just that 2-day period, and it was just physically visible that those 2 or 3 couples within that group of 30, they were physically looked like they had a burden on their shoulders, and it was relating to the amount of debt they have. And there's lots of research to show that the amount of money you earn is not related to happiness or otherwise, but the amount of debt you have really does contribute to the amount of happiness or financial stress. So often that's the starting point. Like, how can we eliminate that? How can we reduce that burden as quickly as possible?
And interestingly, when you talk about what relates to stress, there are some people that I know who have carried huge debts and have been able to carry that with some relative ease. And there are some others that I've known too who've been really stressed over the idea of not being able to pay the power bill. Those sorts of things, some people carry stress a lot more easily than others.
Yes, exactly. And it gets down to your own personal circumstances and the amount of income you've got to cover that level of debt. And so there's a few simple questions that you can ask, like, how confident are you that you could pay for a financial emergency that costs about $1,000? Now, if you're, quite stressed about that, then you might need to, you change your circumstances in some way to help address that. It's just simple questions like that can help understand what situation you're in and how it can possibly change.
Is there some sort of special questionnaire that you have that can help people assess whether they are in fact financially stressed? Is it something you feel and think about all the time? Is it something, as we've already talked about, it actually can affect your health? Is there some way that you can assess how financially stressed you might be?
Yes, I guess one financial indicator, we can ask a few sort of non-financial questions about just how generally do you feel about your current financial situation. But one financial indicator is how long can you last in terms of paying for all your living expenses without working. So if tomorrow you had to stop work, how long would you last without your income and to still be able to survive? And that's a good indicator of your financial situation, because if you have sufficient assets or sufficient resources to pay for 3 months, then you're doing really well. If you're able to do it for 6 months or 12 months, then you're really quite secure. And then if you can do it beyond that, you're almost financially independent. So that's a good test.
I think our parents and our grandparents used to tell us, make sure you put something aside for a rainy day. And I guess what they were talking about is the idea of being prepared, what you're talking about there. But I guess there must be a number of ways that you can prepare for the rainy day that will come. While you're not stressed now, a time will come when there will be financial stress, and that preparation process is important.
Yes, and we talked about it, I think, a few weeks ago when we talked about, 4 great financial principles, and the last one of those was create liquidity, which is basically creating cash available so that if, or when, not if, life throws some challenges at you, you're able to get through them without too much drama, without too much financial stress. So creating that liquidity, and generally it means either being able to hold cash in an account that you don't really touch unless there's a catastrophe, and generally we say 3 to 6 months living expenses. Or if you have a mortgage, sometimes it's better to hold that emergency fund in an offset account, and it's basically sitting there reducing your mortgage, but you're able to draw it out whenever you need to, but not only for emergencies. I guess is the key point there. Don't draw it out to take a holiday or what have you. It's really for the emergency purposes.
Gavin, let's talk about being a Christian and looking at finances, and particularly this area of stress, because Christians are not immune from the stress of finances, and yet there is something that is strong within the makeup of a Christian that helps them to recognise that there is someone who is greater, who's got their hand and their eye on their financial position.
Yes, really, so many references in the Bible talk about relating finances to faith and how that really interrelates. I think Ron Blue in one of his books talks about money being a tool, a test, and a testimony. So it's used in those capacities in many ways. And I think the verse that he refers to when he's talking about a test is Luke 16:11 to 13, and that's where he talks about, if you're not faithful in these things, then who will entrust the true riches to you? And so I guess that's I think Howard Dayton, actually another teacher and financial author, might have had that as his life verse. That's why he wanted to teach people about money, because he understood that the way we handled money would impact the way that they understood faith and came to faith and lived out their faith. So it's interesting.
And of course we could come up with probably lots of biblical foundation for casting our cares upon him, because he cares for us, and some of those things are very stress relieving, knowing that God has our financial concerns in the palm of his hand, and that he's got his eye on our lives too. Gavin Martin, it's good talking to you about stress. I hope it's a not a stressful thing, having talked about this topic today with some of our listeners. Gavin, it's always a pleasure talking. Gavin's website is www.cornerstonewealth.com.au. Gavin, thanks for being with us today on 2020.
Yeah, great to be with you, Neil.